everyone, Angela here. Life can be challenging. Trust me, I get it. However, I have learned we can either view the opposition or value the opportunity. Ponder on the problem or praise the potential. Focus on the situation or find the solution. Despite the current circumstances you're going through, I invite you to join me today as we embark on a grand adventure to discover the reasons why it's a good time to be you.
Here's the encourager herself, making every day a good day, Angela Henderson.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We are so glad you're here today. Turn to your neighbor and say, it's a good time to be you. And it is, yes. We have a wonderful show for you today. Just some amazing inspiration and empowerment. You know, you think you know a person. You meet them, they appear to be successful, they appear to know what's going on, how to do certain things, but you don't really know the journey and the path that they have taken in order to be where they are at the moment that you meet them. And that's where our guest is today, David Carey. An amazing gentleman. Jack of all trades is what I like to say, just from hearing all the many things that he does and that he's capable of doing. If you need it done, this gentleman can do it. He's IT. He also works with cyber security. He's a pastor. He does acting. He does drama. He does a little bit of everything. But we don't know the path that he had to walk in order to be where he is today. And he's going to be sharing a little bit of that with us. You know, I am a firm believer in the scripture of Psalm 91. That's one of my favorite passages in the Bible. And in that passage, it tells us that the Lord puts his angels over us. He gives them charge over us, that we wouldn't even stump our foot against a stone. But I'm a believer that if you're feeling that stone, then this is what's taking place. He is saying, okay, angels, get around them. Jesus, you're going to be the rear guard. Holy Spirit, you're going to be the guide. We're going to walk them through this one because we can use it. And David has walked through some many difficult things, but God has used each and every one of those. He says that he is a refuge. He is a sure foundation. And so we're going to walk a journey and go back in time with David as he shares what life was like growing up. Almost being killed by his stepfather, but yet God intervened. And so don't go away. We will be right back. Hey, as a leader, you are a broker of gifts. So whether you are a professional, a business owner, or a ministerial leader, I would love to accompany you in transforming your ordinary staff into an extraordinary team through leadership development, team building, and personal discovery. You will learn the amazing gifts, skills, and talents that each of you have and know how to bring them together in order to do great things. So reach out to me at angeladhenderson.com and let's begin your amazing adventure today. And remember, it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone. Now let's give a hand clap of welcome for David Carey. David, come on out here. Yay! So glad you're here today. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Have a seat. Okay. Wow. All right, so your story is pretty deep.
Yes.
All right. And so when we just look at all the things, you know, that you do, as you were sharing with our producers, someone would think your life, you've just got it all together. I mean, you must have grown up with the finest of education and, you know, just had a lot of opportunity that was presented to you, you know, throughout your life. But that's not always been the case, has it?
No.
So why don't we go back and let's kind of dive into this, into some of the situations that, you know, transpired in your life and the family composition and the dynamics with your mom.
Well, it starts out, my birth father, he was an alcoholic, and about age three or four, they divorced. And the only remembrance I have is that they owned a restaurant, and I have a memory of being in that restaurant, and I think it's the Charlie Pride song that was playing. Did you happen to see the most beautiful girl?
I
I remember that very vividly, and so then they divorced because of his alcoholism and all of that, and so then a time went by, and she remarried my stepfather, and so that started at about age 5 that I remember, and so not very far after that, he was also a person that drank alcohol and became an alcoholic. And he was a great man when he wasn't drinking.
Yeah.
But when he drank, he became the devil. Wow. I mean, and so me and my younger brother, we went through some years of abuse. I always wanted to really, as we got adults, talk to my mom about it and ask about those years and stuff, but never really got the opportunity. And
wow.
She passed on in 2016. And so, but in those times, in those years, we experienced a lot. And wow. So you would hear the fighting and arguing and the abuse, and she was a battered wife.
Wow.
And
it's so sad, David, sometimes because battered women, unfortunately, when they do have children, they put their children in that same situation, mm-hmm. when they themselves are just looking for love or looking for acceptance, mm-hmm. or looking for someone to take care of them and maybe their kids, and not really realizing
yep.
how badly the children are being affected.
Yep.
And you mentioned it was around the age of 5, and God knows everything, and I know that He doesn't allow bad things to happen to us. Like I said earlier, I know that when these things do happen, there's a lot of rocks in our paths that mm-hmm. we will never know were there. Mm-hmm. But when these things do happen, because of the choices and decisions of other people, He gives us the grace.
Yep.
And that's what the number 5 represents. It
wow.
represents grace. And
wow.
so, I can just see how God's grace surrounded you mm-hmm. during those moments. When other people were operating in their free will,
yeah.
that was against you. And so you said that the abuse that you can remember started around 5. Mm-hmm. So tell us about what happened around 8 and 9.
Well, of course, for years, as we witnessed these things, I would, me and my brother, we had side-by-side rooms, and I would go in his room, and we'd basically be huddled together in the bed,
yeah.
and listening to things, and then once things kind of quieted down, you'd go to sleep and, wake
yeah.
up the next morning and life resume, and so, but as these things happen, at around the age of 8 or 9, there was a night, and it was storming outside, and lightning, and all kinds of things going on, and so I remember hearing all of the fussing and everything, and then being roused out of bed, had finally mm-hmm. gone to sleep. Yeah. And because it had gotten quiet, and got roused out of bed and led downstairs and led outside, and it was my stepfather. And so I'm, trying to wipe the sleepy out of my eyes and
yeah.
figure out what's going on, and all of a sudden, and it's mist and rain, and so he stands me. We had this big old oak tree in the yard, and so he stands me there by the oak tree, and all of a sudden I hear him say the words that, if you don't come back, I'm going to kill him. And so I can remember just, like, what's going on, what's happening. And so he went away, I don't know, 20, 30 feet, and he raised a rifle, in my direction, and he yelled it again, and if you don't come, I'm going to kill him. And so he started counting down, and he 3, 2, and at 1, I heard my mother's voice, come, I'm here, and but at that same time, lightning had crackled, and I saw the muzzle fire of the gun. Okay, And I just froze. Well, my mom come and she scooped me up and took me inside and got us into bed, and she went downstairs, and there was really no more kind of noise or anything, and so went to sleep, went to bed. Gosh. And so that next morning was a very, very profound revelation in my life.
Well, when we come back, we're going to hear about this profound revelation that took place in David's life. So please don't go away. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, Angela here. Just wanting to invite you to share your story with us. You know, we all have times in our lives when it just seemed like it was impossible. But then there was that moment of breakthrough. And just maybe your story was meant to be shared and imparted to be able to encourage and uplift others. Well, we would love to be able to give you that opportunity. So how about send your story into us at itsagoodtimetobeYou@gmail.com for consideration. We would love the opportunity to be able to bring you up on stage so that you can do what you were designed to do, and that was to be an encouragement to those around you. You know, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up, but when it happens, we want the world to know about it. So again, reach out to us at itsagoodtimetobeYou@gmail.com and send in that story for us to consider. And remember, it's a good time to be you.
Welcome back. Wow. We are here with David Carey, and he is sharing just a miraculous story with us. And David, you got us to the part where you were stood before that tree as a child between the ages of 8 and 9, and with a rifle staring down at you, and hearing your mother's voice. And so we are into the next morning. What was the revelation that you had that morning?
Well, that morning, went outside. I remember it was a very pretty day. Of course, storms had passed that night, and so I went over to the tree, and I remember still seeing that muzzle flash. And so being curious little boy, I went over there and I looked, and I saw in the mud my footprints. And so I actually stepped back in my footprints there, and I'm looking. And so then I turned and I looked at the tree, and in that tree was the bullet hole.
Oh my
okay.
Goodness.
And so and it was, if I turned, I was measuring it out, and it was center of chest, okay, where it was. And I know I was so shocked at the thing, at what was happening that night, that I didn't flinch, I didn't duck, I didn't do any of that, And so, I was protected by angels.
Yes, you were.
And so it was a very, I didn't understand it at that time, being that little, but when I got older, then I began to understand the protection of angels and what that meant.
Well, you mentioned, again, that this was between the ages of 8 and 9, and with the numbers, it's just kind of resonating with me. 8 represents a new beginning and a new covenant, and 9 represents to finish and accomplish. And I really believe that God was definitely letting you know that, He's got you covered. Mm-hmm. He's made this promise to you that He was never going to leave you nor forsake you. He would be a friend that sticks closer than a brother. No weapon forged against you is going to prosper. But also, to finish and accomplish, He was saying, David, I began a good work in you. Right. I thought of the idea of you, and nobody is going to take that from the face of this earth until I'm finished with this. And so He who began that good work in you was faithful, to complete that. Wow. So that was pretty awesome. When we look at the numbers, when we're going through the experience at the time, you don't get it, you don't see it. But when we reflect on what's happening and on what God's doing, we can kind of get a clearer picture of why I went through that at that moment and in time. So David, let's go further up now. Take us a little bit further into I guess it would be maybe your teen or preteen time?
Yeah, as a teenager, growing up, I got to the resolve in my life that, I didn't want anything to do with alcohol or anything. Sure. I didn't want to drink. But as a teenager, I got tempted Someone offered it to me at a gathering. I tried it. I liked it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was hurting. I was hurting at those times, and so I drank, and so I myself became an alcoholic.
Wow.
And
The very thing that you hated.
The very thing that I hated. And so I got to a place where I was drinking a whole lot, and I drove home from work on this night. And so going home, again, it was a stormy night. And so a deer had came down the hill where we were and came and went up under my car. And my car went off of an embankment. I mean, like flying off of the embankment. And I landed in top of a big couple of oak trees.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Kind of like Jurassic Park?
Kind of like Jurassic Park.
Oh my God.
And so, you know, I'm stunned. I come to, and I get out of the vehicle, and I'm climbing down this tree, 20, 30 feet, climbing down it. I get almost all the way down, and I hear the branches start popping. And the car, boom, comes and lands, you know, right there, right at me.
Oh my goodness.
And so I gather my senses. I go up the hill, and I'm trying to get help. There's houses around. Nobody will come to the door because I'm drunk, you know, and I sound like a crazy drunk person. And so I make it home about a quarter half mile, and where I was staying, and the family that I was staying with, they brought me back up there. And so the other sobering thing is when you come up to that accident, and I see the white van that says coroner.
Oh my word.
And
They
so
just knew
they
the person
they
was
were
dead.
looking for a dead person.
Oh
That's who
my
they were looking for. And so the police officers, well, my friend's father took me there, and he knew the police officer. He explained to them I was the one in the car, and they were astonished that I lived through that.
Wow.
And so that next morning, they took the car to the house, and the next morning I get up and I go outside, and I mean the car's pancake,
Yes.
it's flat, and so I heard the voice of God, and He told me that I have created you for more than this. Yes. And so at that moment, I said okay, and I gave my heart over to Him.
Yes.
And I laid down. I didn't drink another drop.
Wow,
You know,
that
boom.
is
And it was like, you know, you'll hear some people in alcoholism, and you're always an alcoholic, you'll never be so, you know, and all those things. But listen, when God does something in you miraculous like that, boom, He's able to dry you up, clean you up, everything that needs to be in a moment. And that's what happened to me.
That is so amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, listen, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come right back, and then we're going to find out what's going on in David's life now in the present, and we'll be right back after this message. Hey everyone, Angela here, just wanting to encourage you to pick up my new book. It's a good time to be you. You can find it on AngelaDHenderson.com or Amazon.com. But this is a book that you definitely need. Let me help coach you so that you can know how to turn perils into pearls and trauma into treasures. You know, life is challenging, and I kind of understand that. But in the pages of this book, you are going to realize that you are created in His image. Go figure out. What about choosing joy? That should be a given. Gethsemane. Not too sure about that one, Angela. How about approved? That's something that we all want. From prison to palace. Let me show you how to get out of prison and live in the palace. Sounds of the season. You've got a season in your life, a great season ahead of you. Listen for the sound so you can pick up on it. The joys of the journey to somewhere. You know, it's not just the destiny, but it's the joy of the journey. Hey, how about as for me and my house? You can make that declaration, and you and your family can serve the Lord. Burn the boats. Listen, if you want to take the island, you gotta burn the boats. Get rid of all your excuses and learn to fly like an eagle. You want to get this book today so that you can move forward in all the things that God has for you. Don't waste another day being down and discouraged and depressed. You got to know, my friend, that it truly is a good time to be you. Hey everyone, welcome back. So David, you were sharing with us about the traumatic childhood that you had with your stepfather, trying to take your life at the age between 8 and 9, and actually seeing the bullet hole in the tree. And then also once you were a teenager, you had, gotten involved in alcohol and became what you hated, and was in a car wreck that landed at the top of a tree. It was one of the movie moments, and had a very strange awakening when you saw the coroner at your accident site, and just knowing yet again that God was with you.
Yes.
And so while we were on break, you were also sharing and discussing another incident in your life with your stepfather. And I think it was a very pivotal moment. So would you please share that as we move forward with your story?
When I had the orchards and the things going on, we had orchards at our home, and so the goal was for me I was 16 to be able to buy a car and have a car, and so we worked that and so set that money aside, and it come the day to go buy the car. I had my eye on a truck, and my mom took me to get the truck, and so she went to the bank to get the money, and money was gone.
Wow.
Money had been spent, and she found out that my stepdad had come and taken all the money out, and come to find out he had a cocaine habit and all these things. And so so she sent us on to school, and then I came home that afternoon, and Mom was in the living room, and she was asleep on the couch, and I saw, on her face, it was bruised and red, and so there'd been another fight, another altercation. So I went in there, and I saw my stepfather he was in bed, and he was passed out. And so I went, and I went to the gun cabinet, and we'd had police to our house many times throughout the years, and they had planted the seed in my mind that, if you had to protect your mother or protect your brother, and you had to take his life, you'd get away with it.
Wow.
And so I remember that moment of that racing through my mind. And so I went to the gun cabinet, and I removed the same rifle.
Oh, wow.
That he had tried to kill me with. And I took that rifle, and I went into his bedroom, and I knew how to operate guns. We hunted, and so I chambered the round and everything, and I put the gun to his head, and I pulled the trigger.
Wow.
And the gun misfired.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And so I walked outside, and I'm wondering, what happened? And I chambered it again and just to check, and fired it, and it fired. Same bullet.
Wow.
And so I laid it down, and that's when I left home.
Yeah.
And I told my mom I couldn't stay there anymore.
Wow, David, I see how God just really spared your life so many times, even in that moment. Even though you had that seed planted in your mind that if I did this, I could probably get away with it. But you would still have that memory, of taking another life. And with that being said, how did you make it through the rest of your life without being a victim? Because when we look at what you walked through, you were victimized.
Yeah.
I mean, from a child to a teenager. I mean, and even, just important things that mattered to you that were just kind of taken and you were robbed from and stolen from. So how did you do it without being a victim?
I pretty much, after that happened, after the car accident, and after God spoke to me, and He created me more than this, I got in that mindset of, I'm not going to be a victim. I do not want to have that. I want to have the life that I was intended to have. I want to do the things that I was intended to do. And in society today, in where we're at, it's so easy for young people to go through traumatic things. I'm not the only person that's ever gone through a traumatic, upbringing and been the victim. But you make that choice that I'm not going to perpetuate that that mindset, that lifestyle,
Yes.
and go on and be that victim. And so I wanted a family. I wanted to settle down. I wanted to have my own children and all these things. So it was in that, and then it was I had an experience with God in my bedroom where I realized that no matter what, no matter what I'd been through, no matter what I had done, He loved me.
Amen.
He loved me.
Amen, David.
And He was going to see me through this. And He had, He told me that I was made for more than this. So I
Yes.
knew that He had a plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, David, when did you realize then that it was a good time to be you in the midst of all that?
We see and can look and say that, yes, it's always a good time to be us.
Yes.
But, as I look back and something that I found out sometime later is that my mother went back to that tree, and my mother dug out the bullet
Oh, my.
that was in that tree. And she had that bullet, and later in life she showed me that bullet, and as a remembrance as to what God had done, in protecting us. And
Instead of digging it out of David, it was dug out of a tree.
Dug out of a tree.
Oh my gosh.
And so then I go back to Jesus on the cross and the tree. And there's just so many things that God did. So looking back at that day, that was a great day to understand that it was a good time to be me. And then, throughout life and every day. And here I've been married to my wife for 30 years.
Yes.
We're 32 years, and we've got a 30-year-old son, and we're fixing to be grandparents. And so, it's really getting to that time that you really, every day is a good day.
David, that is so exciting, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It is truly empowering, and it's inspirational, and God had His hands on you, and your name means beloved, and so how beautiful it was for you to really tap in to that discovery that God so loved David.
Amen.
Amen. And so, David, how about at the count of 3, we let everyone else out there know that it's a good time to be them, okay? 1, 2, 3. It's a good time to be you.
To check out our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube page, and it's a good time to be you. Also, check out the website at www.angeladhenderson.com. We look forward to sharing more stories with you next week. And remember, it's a good time to be you.